Hi guys, it's Nicole, and today I have a Workspace Wednesday video for you. This is going to be putting layouts away. This is one of those tasks that I avoid as long as I possibly can because I find the entire thing to be overwhelming and stressful. So for this round, I took small chunks at the large mass of layouts that I have. I basically took 3 years worth. I can't remember what 3 years these were, but I took 3 years worth, sorted them, pulled the albums, and just slowly started incorporating the layouts into the albums. I keep tiered trays in the closet in my craft room, and each tier has like a label for the year, and as long as they're dated, I can put them in there. Now, this is one of those things that I run into issues with, and it's kind of like a domino effect of why I get overwhelmed with them is the fact that there's so many. I don't enjoy the process of putting them away. I don't enjoy the process of dealing with going through all of the albums. The albums are not labeled, they're not in order. Like, that's a whole other project I've been avoiding. It's just kind of this mess that I avoid. I tend to enjoy sort of the middle process of this hobby of planning and creating the layouts and then sharing the layouts. It's kind of the bookends of the whole process that I tend to get bogged down with, and a lot of that is organizing my digital photos and then housing the layouts at the end. So I took like 2 sessions. You'll see a wardrobe change to go through and put layouts away. This first round was not that bad. I think it was because I didn't have a ton of layouts that needed to get put away. It was manageable. The specific years that I picked, I felt like the albums, there wasn't really a whole lot of issues with them. And I think out of the stack that I had, I think there was like one layout that I brought back upstairs because it actually did not have a date on it. I knew what year it needed to be in, but I didn't want to put it in there without a date because that's how I file them chronologically. So I look for the date stamp on my layouts to figure out where the other ones go. So at this point, I wasn't feeling like super overwhelmed. And so I was like, okay, we're going to set aside the footage and we're going to come back and do another round in a couple days. And I think the second round I was more frustrated and more overwhelmed, and I think it's just because this is part of the process that I put off. I don't do it very often, so I don't necessarily have like a good workflow of how I do it. I don't have a good process of how I do it. It's literally either I don't have enough room in my tiered trays and I need to file things, or I will see like a challenge for putting your layouts away, and that's a good nudge, that kind of a thing. I'm actually at a point where I do need to order some more albums. Unfortunately, the discount store that I was getting these We Are Memory Keeper like leather albums from has since gone out of business, so I'm kind of looking around for either different ordering options or possibly even a different album. You guys will see at the end, my albums don't really match. Doesn't really bother me because, again, this is sort of the out of sight, out of mind part of the hobby. The end result of having to put them in the layouts, having to put them in the albums, and then having to sort of find a home for the albums, which I'm kind of almost out of space on my shelf for my albums as well. But at the end of the video, I'll show you where I keep my albums and the furniture that they're on. I do have some wiggle room, and I can kind of explain that later. So again, that round was not bad. Another day, I was upstairs sorting layouts into those piles for the years, and I kept throwing a bunch on my chair that I was frustrated with that there was no date. I keep thinking to myself that I'm good about dating things in the moment, and I must just be imagining it, or I must make more layouts than I think that I've made. I'm not really sure where the disconnect is, but I think I took probably like 6 or 8 different layouts, took 10 or 15 minutes to scroll through all my photos, write down the date. I just scribbled it on scraps of Post-it notes so that I could come back when I was in the right frame of mind to go ahead and add the date. If I have a specific date, I like to use a roller date stamp. If it's photos that encompass like multiple days or a whole season, I will just put the year. So like family day out was one specific day, so I'm going to use my roller date stamp. I have this old gray ink pad from not my mind's eye, my favorite things. They don't make this anymore, but it is my favorite, so I tend to keep this one out. This is an instance where I know that this is Christmas Day. It's not a Christmas looking layout, but these are the books that I purchased for my kids that year. Every year I do a book outlet order for them, and it's like one of the favorite things to shop for. So I always try to take like a photo of kind of the book haul. So that's one of those things that I know it's Christmas, so I just put the year on there. These photos were not from the same day. It was kind of over a couple of weeks where we kept finding the puppy sleeping, sitting, living, playing in the toy box. So I'm just going to put the year and the month. I didn't have enough letters to do it in the same style, so this bugs me a little bit, but it's one of those things where done is better than not done. And now we're back to today. Today I thought was going to go like the first round. I pulled 3 years worth of stuff. I had 2015, 2016, and 2017. The more prolific I have been on a certain year, I will have 2 albums for. In my mind, I would like to only have 2 albums for 1 year, but there are some instances where I think when my kids were really little that I'm going to have to carry over into 3 albums for a year. And that kind of goes into the part where I start to feel overwhelmed. I start to feel like there's just too much stuff. But again, once it's housed in the album and the album is housed on a shelf, I can sort of turn those thoughts off. It's just getting through the steps to get to that point that I get bogged down in and I get overwhelmed in, and I don't keep up on it, and it becomes a bigger problem, and it's just this whole thing. I was doing pretty good. I think 27 was the one that wanted to participate. It was going smoothly. Everything was great. I think when I went to pull my albums, I only had 1 album for 2017, but I could kind of tell based on how full it was and how many layouts that I had, I needed to go ahead and split it into 2. I had 1 album left that was empty, so I went ahead and grabbed that. And none of my albums are done. So when I say that I would prefer it to be January to June and then July to December, that's just where I split it for now, because I know that I'm not done with any year. I'm going to be squeezing stuff in for a while because I don't scrap chronologically. I've thought about dabbling in that. I feel like that just would not work for my brain. I am kind of playing around with some different methods to sort of bridge the gap, and I will be sharing more with that soon. So again, if it is a year that I feel like I've done a lot and I have a lot of layouts, I've got 2 albums. I was kind of surprised this round at how many doubles I actually had, because I feel like lately I haven't made very many doubles, but then again, a lot of these layouts have been in my my like labeled trays for a while. Sometimes when I am quote unquote good about putting layouts away, it's like recent stuff. It's super easy to put it away and it's not like a big process. Now, this was the point where I was so mad at myself. I thought I was plugging along and I was like, something's not right here. Like, what is the problem? And I had to walk away. I quickly figured out that I had 2016 and 2017 mixed, but like it was in order. So like the month and the day were in order, but then the years were all over the place. So at some point I had gotten myself mixed up. I had to turn the camera off, go get that situated to the point where I could set 2017 aside, I could call it done, and I could start working on, I think at this point I moved over to 2015. 2016 is the mess in the middle. And if I am sitting down, that I am using all of my brain cells, both of them, and I'm annoyed. If I'm standing up and I'm kind of, trying to get through it quickly, it doesn't feel that bad. Oof, today it was rough. I did have one that I just pulled out. It's on the left side of the screen. I started to file that and I was like, hold up. My daughter is way too young for this album. So I'm pretty sure that's 2014. So I will have to go double check my date and fix that. That was during a Creating with Collections where I intentionally plowed through a bunch of Easter. At this point, I'm like, no, these month in reviews I know absolutely are 2016 and this album is 2015. So I was annoyed with myself that I had 2 months just in the wrong album completely. So now at this point I'm like, okay, are there any more in here? I am checking all the dates. I'm looking at people's faces. I'm trying to figure out how old people are. And this one, I'm like, you know what? I need to be done. I am so close to being done. Like, let's get this figured out. I'm double checking like everything I possibly can, doing like a rough sort between the two halves of the year. If I'm not sure, at one point I was comparing like my kids' clothes and haircuts to the photos from the month in review, because I know for a fact the month in review was 2016, but if I was questioning a specific layout, I was, checking anything to save myself a trip upstairs, turning on the computer and going back through the process of digging through photos. So I didn't really have an opportunity to kind of go and revisit some of these layouts. I did get a little distracted here and there when I would see like a technique that I had done and I was like, ooh, I really liked that. When I first did those month in review layouts, I remember thinking that I didn't really like them. I enjoyed seeing them in the album, and I really am enjoying the pre-printed calendar papers that I used. So now I'm like kind of itching to do another month in review with that style, just from going and not looking through my albums, but having to deal with this task. You can thank me for deleting the audio because it was a lot of just cussing myself out. I am annoyed. I'm like, this does not make sense. What is wrong with me? I'm the only one that deals with it. It's not like my kids are coming behind me and like moving things around. Like, they're not going to do that. So yeah, I was getting to the end, getting stuff done. I did, like I said, I only had the one layout that I needed to bring back upstairs, so that was kind of good. And at this point, I decided I'm done. I ended up putting away, I wrote it down for you guys, 17 doubles, 36 singles for a total of 370 photos that I can sort of mentally check off the list, the to-do list. So calling it done, put everything back on the shelf. So here you can see like the spine plates don't line up. I'm pretty sure there's different brands of albums. That is sort of a task for another day. They're kind of labeled, like some of them just have pencil marks. It just kind of is what it is at this point. So if this is something that you have been avoiding, I would slightly encourage you to give it a try. If not, maybe wait until June. I am working on a collaboration challenge with Lisa over at Life in Layouts, and we will have more information for you guys coming up with what we think is a fun way to sort of streamline these parts of this hobby that can kind of feel overwhelming, or they're just not fun, or you tend to just not do. So with that, I'm going to leave you guys here and I will catch you later. And as always, I thank you for spending time with me and catch you later.